Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Mount Vernon City Council meeting for February 10, 2021 to order. The time is now 6:02. Item B on our agenda is our Pledge of Allegiance. So I'll ask our council to join us in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
All right, thank you so much. We'll go to our roll call of council members. I will go slow so you can unmute yourself. First up, Council Member Gary Molinar.
Here.
Council Member Melissa Beaton, who is having internet problems tonight, so I'm sure she'll join again. Council Member Mark Hulst.
Here.
Council Member Mary Hudson.
Here.
Council Member Iris Carillas.
Here. Council
Member Richard Brocksmith.
Here.
And Council Member Juan Morales.
Present.
Thank you. We'll watch for Council Member Beaton when she comes back on. All right, under consent agenda tonight, we have items A, B, C, and D. It's minutes, payroll checks, wire transfers, and claims.
I move for approval of tonight's consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mary, a second by Iris. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Under reports tonight, we have item A as the review of emails from the public. I'll ask Peter Donovan if we have any public comment tonight. And knowing that he has a bad internet connection and knowing that we don't, we did not receive any public comment either through email or mail today. All right, moving on then for item B is department updates. It's our Public Works Department Committee update. And so Esco Bell will give you an update. Go ahead, Esco.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me get the screen shared. Okay, is everybody seeing a Public Works update screen? Okay, that's great. So we've got about 80 items and we'll go through them pretty quick and Blaine will lead off the group. Go ahead, Blaine.
Next slide, please.
Next slide. Uh-oh. Okay. There.
Okay, the Washington Conservation Corps came in town last week on the 1st of February. I don't know if anybody's seen them around, but they've been cleaning up some ponds and some of our drainage swales and ditches and some of the channels around town. They've been working on, they worked on the South LaVenture Pond. They worked on the Jeff Street swale, which I have a picture of a young man removing some of the debris and trees from the swale. Jeff Street is over by Digby Heights, off of Digby and Division. The North 19th Stream plantings, they planted some willow sticks along there, and we'll have a picture of that in just a moment. They've also done some work at the Maddox Creek culvert removal site where they've done some plantings out there, and Colshan Creek debris removal, and also there were some beaver dams that we found during some of these wet events, and we'll touch on that in just a few minutes. They've cleaned some of that. They could only do handwork on that. We did have a licensed trapper in, WDFW licensed trapper come in, and he had to remove a couple of live trapped, I want to make that clear, live trapped a couple beavers and took them upriver. So they're hopefully living happily upriver. Next slide, please. This is the North 19th. Now, most of these willow sticks are close because they had to actually get down in the creek, which is a couple of feet deep with hip waders to put these in. It was been too wet recently for them to get on these side slopes. They would just destabilize the slopes. So we did most of the plantings along the edge of the water line, which if we can get that stabilized, it will help the rest, and we'll do more plantings up the side of that slope later. But this is the work they were able to do. And next slide. And also here's the Maddox Creek site. They did some plantings up on the north side of the ravine up on the top near this rock-lined swale, and they did go over the edge a little bit. You can see these plantings. They also marked where they wanted to do plantings down below, but due to a series of very wet storms that came through the area, they have not been able to get on these side slopes to do plantings. It's just been too wet, and it would probably destabilize these slopes too much. So they do plan on doing that in the future, but it's not going to happen during this stretch they had. And just to touch again on the Carlson Creek, during these wet events that we've had, we did find some debris and beaver dams in Carlson Creek that we were able to locate, and we were able to, like I said, remove those. The South Mount Vernon system did have some backwatering in some of these events. These are the two main things that we found, other than some shoulder puddling and that sort of thing during some of these large, pretty good size events we've had. South Mount Vernon, actually, it's working quite a bit better right now. Drainage District 17 cleaned out their system along I-5. And so it's working quite a bit better. They can only do that about once every 5 years due to permitting requirements. It used to be that they could clean that system out, the big ditch system along I-5 more frequently, but they can't. So they're doing what they can. Overall, our systems, I think, handled some of these events pretty well when I compare to previous years. So I've been pretty pleased with that. Next slide. Just wanted to go over really quick the stormwater facilities that we have. We continue to get more and more of them, of course, in the city. There's a map that shows the location of both private and public facilities. We have 321 facilities in the city, 145 public ones. Catch basins, we're up to 8,398 within the city. 6,000 of them are public. And we have 260 miles of storm sewer pipes. 142 of those are public. So there's quite a bit within the city. Next slide. And just to talk a little bit more, we've had flooding in the areas in the past several years around the Washington Tractor area, and then also around the PUD substation, the PSE substation, electrical substation there, and then down at what I call the cider barn. And they've had actually water up into their parking lot and sit in those fields there for a few weeks after some of these large events. But this year, with the cleaning down in Big Ditch, which is south along I-5, it drained off a lot faster. Within a day or so, it drained out. So it's quite an improvement. It should help out the situation of flooding in the South Mount Vernon area. So. And one last thing I was going to mention before we move on, and I know the mayor's usually done this in the mayor's report, but I thought since I would be here, I'd go ahead and mention real quick that in March 20th, we're going to have our stormwater management program update. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that next month it's a requirement of our permit to mention that we're going to have that, make sure that it's advertised. So I just wanted to make sure that we all know that that's going to happen next month for our Public Works Committee.
Okay, it's Bill Bullock's turn to talk about Carlson Trail Safety Lighting Project.
Council has questions, just jump right in, please. So.
Yes, ma'am. So, quick update on the trail lighting project. Oceanside has completed their conduit and trenching. I have a couple of the pictures of that in a minute. And the next thing they have to do is we have 5 security poles that they are going to install. And right now they're waiting on delivery of those, so they will finish that up in March. Bigger news is PSE Pole Services, formerly Intolight, will be installing the light poles, wiring, and energizing the lights, hopefully next week. So that's kind of exciting. They're on schedule to do that work. Real quick is the summary you've seen before down below for the cost breakout for this particular project. And again, construction began on January 4th, and we will hopefully have it wrapped up here in a few weeks. Next slide. Couple of project pictures of the beginning of the trench and the conduit that went in. Next slide. And then this is a piece of sidewalk that we are energizing these lights from this particular power pole on 18th, and we had to re-pour a piece of sidewalk to get that in. And then the other picture is right now it's kind of boring. It's just a filled in trench for most of the trail, but this gives a good picture of the trench work that they've completed and finalized on the trail. Next slide. So next update, Hogan-LaVenture Road intersection improvements. This is a TIB grant we've talked to council a little bit about in the last couple of months. We've gone through our selection review process, both looking at statements of qualifications and an interview of 3 different companies. Reichart and EB was ultimately chosen as the preferred candidate. We'll be bringing a design contract and scope of work to council on March 10th to get them started, and then right away and design will continue from March to December of next year or this year, and then we will be ready to go to bid sometime in January or February 2022 and complete construction next year. Next slide. And just a couple quick pictures. This is the picture of Grace Church, which is on the Hoag-LaVenture Road intersection. This intersection is the nexus for Hoag Road, LaVenture, Martin, and Francis Road. And then just a quick aerial map location of where the project is. And you can see the YMCA off to the west there a little bit. And that's all I have for that update.
Okay, and now it's my turn with a couple of topics. As the council knows, the wastewater treatment plant administration building construction has been going on for a couple months. Axthelm's the contractor and everything's going well. And I'll just show you a couple slides about that. If I can find my advance button. So this was a picture I showed last month, and here's with the floor slabs poured and workers building the walls in a hurry. So again, this is a $1.2 million project, adds a total of about 3,400 square feet. Half of that's remodel, half of that's new square footage, and we should be done in, I'll say spring, April. And this is also a topic we've had up a couple times here, because you know that the city provides residential recycle through contracted services to waste management, and that contract's expiring, and so we've been working on that. And it's pretty much the same as I've said before, except for 2 big things. One is the cost is going up from $592 up to $1054 a month. That's what our offer is on the table, and we've talked about that a little bit, and I provided some information in your packets, some more detail about that. And then the other thing is we're proposing and recommending strongly that we go ahead and do the billing processes, let waste management do that instead of us doing it for them. It adds only 10% of the increased cost at 47 cents, and it would be very difficult for us to beat that price. And it's really a more overall effective way to do that. So in our view, and then like I said, I provided a little more substantiation provided by waste management that explaining the costs that go from that significant increase, and it's all mostly about cost escalation. The fact that their cost to process recyclables has increased by 41% over the last 3 years or so, and why at the same time the commodity values that they get for selling those recyclables has decreased by 76%. So again, this is still, it's an important thing. We've had, citizens have been required to do this service for, more than 15 years, all the years that when I was talking to Andy, we're talking a couple decades, we've been doing this required recycle with residential. So Anyway, and then this other information, I think you've seen it before, but what I'd like to hope that we can do is stay on track. And we've discussed a little bit about there's waste management does a good job, but there's not a lot of feasible alternatives for us. And I would like to just keep going forward with the process. We have to do a 45-day notice, and that's what we do unless we hear different orders from the mayor and council today. We'll just put out a notice that it is the intent to raise the costs from 592 to 1054. We have to do that 45-day notice, and then we'd proceed with working out the contract details and then have this in effect by April 1. And that's Andy's Hanson is here. If you have any questions that I can't answer, maybe he can.
So for council, I don't know if you can hear me, I'm having some audio issues too, so apologize for that. But we've talked about this a few times. Is there any questions that staff needs to answer for you before we ask to have it put on an agenda so that we can go out with that 45-day notice, et cetera? So, okay. Seeing no questions from council, we'll go ahead and continue with the process of entering into that contract then. Great.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. And then another topic that's always important, carrying on the work that was the substance of the Transportation Benefit District that the council had the voters passed it a couple of years ago, is our overlay program. And so we always, we developed that with an asset management program. We have all the pavements evaluated every couple of years, having them all scored in a methodical way that is standards produced by DOT. We follow that sort of thing. That gives us, about a good place to start. And then we work with Jason in operations to make sure that we're getting his feedback of where he's seeing things on the ground. And then we put together, and then we try to add some other sense to it to gather things in coherent, workable packages and that sort of things. And then we put it in front of the mayor, and then we put it in front of the council. But here is our proposed list, and it's, you can see it's right in the middle there is LaVenture is 1.5 miles of that, and that's certainly needs some work. And then this PUD work on First Street presents an opportunity, since they're already, those folks who dug in that pipe, they're going to have Lakeside grind off half of that road and overlay it, and they're also going to do big swaths over the cross trenches. This would be a good time for us to get in and get that all done all the way across the road for a whole mile. So that's on there as a proposed one. You can see Little Mountain down at the bottom of the screen there. That was on the list last year, but the pandemic, we had to curtail that, and that one dropped off, but it certainly needs the work. So that's on there. And then we were up just north of College Way. There's some local streets up there a couple of years ago, like 4 years ago already. It was 32nd and 33rd where, really needed it. And then out in that neighborhood, just finished that off. The 35th and is also really needs the work. So that's our proposed program, and we have it out to you early. And and if we can get this thing, what we can always do, you've always supported us having an aggressive program, and then we can always trim it back, checking with the mayor and the council and Doug to make sure that we keep we'll only spend what we have, but we have enough work identified to do that.
Esco, I have a question.
Yes.
Regarding the First Street, the LaVenture to Wa that PUD has been working on for quite a while. How does that break down with figuring out what is how do we break it down as to, because part of this is their responsibility, correct? How do we break it down financially? How does that get broken out?
Well, so they're going to do a whole half of the road. That's what they're already doing. And then they're going to do just the crossing. So whatever's left we'll double check and then do that by change order with them. And then, you know, probably have to have, you know, and we'll make sure we got the mechanics of that done. But it's it should be a really good value because they'll have them all mobilized. It should be a win-win for everybody. You'll have a bigger quantity and that road will look really great. And I think our number's conservative there, but we didn't want to lowball it.
So there wouldn't be another mobilization fee for one thing, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to present us with a change order. They're doing that right now. And we'll see what that looks like. And it should be a good deal at less than $100 a ton. Okay. And the grinding, we'll have to pay some money for that. Mm-hmm. But I think if you just do the asphalt, what I was back in the napkin figuring, it's probably $250,000 between the grinding and the asphalt. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Because I drive that road every day. So of course I'm very, very, I know that road pretty well. So then many of us do, but, and I hear about it. So I just wanted to kind of dig in a little bit and I appreciate the answers. Thank you.
You bet. Yeah, it's due. In other words, it has a lot of cracks in it and crack sealing.
It does.
Yeah.
So ESCO, I was going to say that anytime we can tie in with another entity's responsibility on a road that needs to be improved, that's just wise. We save money in the long run. And we've always trusted you in the past to pick the worst areas to do the improvements on, and we're kind of chipping those away year by year. So I'm assuming that your proposal, maybe other than the one that we're partnering with PUD on, are the most needed repairs this year.
Yes, and it's also combined with the need to stay on top of those arterials with the heavy traffic. We don't want those falling apart because they'll be a major expense. So yes, this is the best in my judgment and recommended to you to get the best out of your paving dollar.
So I did have one follow-up question, and you and I had discussed the chips or the crack seal up on Waugh Road. Have we got any plans to address that issue?
Yeah, I visited in the field myself and visited with Jason and tested it and drove on it. It has a lot of crack seal and we're not paving it this year, and I don't know if it'll be on next year's list, but in the short term, when I drove it, I was able to not have any problems with slippage or anything like that, but it's certainly not pretty. I mean, it has lots of crack sealing and it'll need an overlay, not in the too distant future. But both Jason and I did a field trip together out there, and I drove my car on it and accelerated on it and did a bunch of things to make sure it was in the acceptable category. Certainly not, it needs work, but it's just, and when it's ready for an overlay is when I'd fix it all the way.
Yeah,
saying.
The concerns that I've heard from several individuals was mostly pickup trucks trying to get up there. Of course, they have a lot of lighter rear end, and so they end up spinning all the way up. And I witnessed that myself when I went up with my pickup. Brand new tires going up with a pickup and a light rear end. It wants to spin a good portion of the way up the hill.
Well, I might have to go out there with some sand on it or something. I'm not, it's either that or we might be able to dig it out and fix it. But if that's not, if we want to do something more than what's there because of the pickups, yeah. I mean, I can, anyway, maybe I should revisit that with Jason and whether we can put some sand on it or something to do that, or get our paver out there and cut out a section of it. But I was, like I said, I wasn't going to do anything with it until we do the overlay. That's what I'm saying. But
okay, yeah, I'll go out there and take a run up it again in wet weather and report back to you.
Okay. All right, and then if there's no more questions on that, I usually mention when our next traffic safety committee meeting is February 16th, next week. And those, of course, we do every 2 months, and altogether we probably go through 80 items that come from the council and mayor and the public. And each time we go out in the field and look at each one of those issues, and the committee has members from the council, the chief of police, 3 people from public works, us technocrats and engineers, and the attorney's office. And what it is to manage the subjective piece of these choices on how we manage these safety issues. And a lot of them, of course, come down to acceptable as is as we manage them in the system. But anyway, we do those every 2 months, and it's next week is the next one. And that's our report, Council Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Next up is our library committee. And so Isaac Huffman is our librarian, and he's gonna give us his presentation and update. And again, council, if you have questions, just go ahead and butt right in.
All right, everybody. It's time for another library update. I just wanted to start off with a couple of fun statistics to just highlight about this year. I know that it's a little bit of an odd year with the library services being shut down to the general public, but we did have a number of interesting little factoids. Excuse the train in the background, of course. First off, we did 20,230 curbside trips since we started curbside service. That's at least 126 times a day. So many trips that we wore out the front lock in the library. So that was a nice just reality. We have 137 more digital checkouts happening, or 25% growth. That's a little over 4,000 digital checkouts each and every month. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second when we talk about a collection as a whole. And then, of course, personal shopping has been really popular. We're now serving over 230 families with our personal shopping service. So we love doing that as well. One thing I just haven't had the opportunity to do, but I really wanted to highlight, was a thank you to you, council, who gave to the library periodical campaign, and all the citizens who did that as well. We are lucky to have a fully funded periodical collection for this coming year. It was just a real show of community support, and I was really happy to have that happen with the library. The foundation was also really tickled by that as well. They were not expecting it to be as successful as it was. So they actually added a few more titles than they were originally going to support, just because of all the community support we had. So it's a really lovely. The last of the magazines are just arriving now, and pretty soon we'll be sharing that with the public as we have a full collection ready to show off. So that should be wonderful as well. Just a quick little item. We did receive this book as a Christmas gift from one of our patrons, the Yoslings Visit the Library. You know, what better way to show the appreciation of a library than to give them a book? But it really highlights just how much the library space means to each individual patron, and how much utilization we get out of that, community value. So it was just a good reminder to us about our eagerness to open the library space when we can do it safely and well, because we do think that, just even visiting the library has a lot of value, and it was just a wonderful gift for the library to receive. Right now we are doing our blind date with a book program where we select a mystery title for each person who sends in a card. And we were tickled today because we also got a Valentine from our last promotion, our New Year's challenge, made from, just in support of our thing. Really, one of my values of the library is it has to show an individual and a community spirit. And so when things like this connect with patrons and really show value, it is really important to me as well. So just some quick updates about the collection. I know I haven't talked about that in a little bit of time, and we did want to highlight some things that have changed since COVID started. Number one, our physical collections use has shifted quite a bit during the time of COVID. One of the big shifts is a much higher use of the fiction side of the collection versus the nonfiction side. I think it has to do with just our, community at large is want to escape a little bit more and to explore a little bit different world than the one that we're currently living in. But our fiction use was up by percentage over the nonfiction collection, about 20%. So it was quite significant in this past year. And one thing that we're watching very closely is always our children's collection. It represents about 50% of our circulation. And we're seeing just a little bit more of a dip in that collection. I think, again, it's a little bit harder to access the collection through our curbside service. A lot of people do browse those titles and receive them, kind of based on, what they see in the library. And so we're just thinking about new ways to promote that physical collection. On the whole, the total collection increased just by about 500 items as we do weeding and adjusting. So we're now at about 86,000 physical items that are here in the library and available for use. Of course, percentage of that rolls out every year through replacement, and some titles leave relevance and some enter relevance, and we buy a lot every year, but that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment. Our digital collection, we've been growing for many years. We started out with a very small digital collection through our consortium, about 5,000 items. This last year, our digital collection, which is through the wider Washington Consortium, which includes really the Bellingham libraries and the Whatcom libraries, and all of the Skagit libraries are the big lion's share of that, reached 56,000 items. So it's getting really close to our collection. I think in the next 5 years, it will be about the same size of digital items. And the circulation in that total collection went just over 1 million. So that's, getting high utilization, and it's high utilization here for our library and its size as well. One of the things we'll see when we reach that 86,000 number is we will less need to use these sort of digital supplement contracts that we have used in the past with like Hoopla and other places. So we have these kind of like instant on demand to kind of fill in gaps, because more of the primary need will be met by that. That will allow us more flexibility with those digital contracts as we move forward, maybe expanding the access to those platforms, or buying, kind of new augments to our collection. So it's just kind of a fun point, because it took us about a decade to reach this point, and to be close enough to be almost matching our own physical collection is just a good point, I think, to be at. We continue to have strong partnerships, one of which is we are finally out to signature for our school district contract. And when it comes back from the school district, we will have it here for the council approval. Just that's really good. We also continue to partner with lots of different entities within the school district. And this was just a fun project that the Mount Vernon Mariachi Band recently did by highlighting a few of the titles that they're reading and making little read posters. And I just wanted to share that with you as well. Also, on the council agenda in a couple of weeks will be the appointing of a new board member. We just have a couple of change-ups that are happening in the next little bit as well. One thing I did want to highlight is we are in our second year of our seed library. We almost launched our seed library to the public, officially, right before COVID happened, and then we shut down. We were going to have a big event, but we have been sort of running it low-key under the radar over this past year. Right now, you can request a seed packet of seasonally appropriate seeds from the library. And this is being really very popular and well utilized. We're also getting a lot of community support. All the seeds we have in the seed library come from donations from big suppliers like Mowing Seeds, as featured here, and also many other growers in our region. And we are happy to be able to encourage people to learn how to grow at least a little bit of their food. Research shows that people who have that skill have much greater food stability in their households. And so we want to encourage people to know how to grow a little bit and be connected with the Skagit Valley. Also just in reality, if we look at employment in our region, people who are handy around plants, have a marketable skill. So we want to encourage that as well. As I said, it's being a popular service. We've just been really low key about it, but we've got, dozens and dozens of requests so far, and we continue to kind of push that service into the growing season. Just a couple 2021 strategic priorities that I just wanted you guys to know. We've been really fortunate in our operation. We haven't had any cases of COVID in our staff, and we've been really safe throughout the year. We've, maintained kind of above industry standard safety practices here in the library. So we want to continue that. It's a little bit of randomness when it comes to when you actually get an infection or not. But, I just wanted to highlight that we're doing our very best to, continue safe operation. Another project that we're going to engage in the next little bit is the RFID conversion. The big thing about this, just for the end user, is to check out books. They no longer will have to scan each individual book. Instead, you will set a stack of books on a little mat, and it will check out all the books in the stack in just like 1 second. It just goes. This cuts down on the handling of individual materials. It also helps us maintain a more accurate inventory for the public. One of the great benefits of COVID has been the fact that when we say a book is here, it is actually here. And we realize that a lot of that has to do with people unintentionally not checking out books when they go through the self-check process. So we want to encourage a better self-check percentage from our patrons, as well as just, make it easier for them to use. So we will start that conversion process this year, and we will carry that over into any new future structure. We're also really working hard on doing more partnerships. We started a new tri-county library group with Whatcom, Skagit, Island and Snohomish, so quite a few libraries there. I'm really looking to support cross-county goals such as homelessness, broadband, and education. And we're really thinking about collective programming and advocacy in that regard. So more to come from that, but we know that a successful library always has great partnerships as well. So that's one of our strategic goals. All right, and then finally, if we do kind of move into the next phase of a new building, we're really looking forward to supporting that project. I have some great ideas about how to, help bridge the gap with fundraising and a number of other things. So just FYI, that's not off our radar either strategically. Thanks, that's all I have tonight.
All right, any questions for Isaac? It's always fun to see the ideas that are coming out of our library, so we appreciate that. Thanks, Isaac.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on our agenda, item C is our council member comments. Any council member comments tonight?
Yeah, I wanted to remind the public that the city council has formed a fireworks committee, and we're having a discussion about some of the illegal fireworks and what to do about fireworks within the city. We've put out a call for citizen participation in that. Ideally, we'd like to have 2 representatives from each ward. Currently, we have two representatives from the public, both from Ward 1. So if anybody's interested in participating in this committee, I would encourage them to get on the city website, fill out the application, and get it in. We had our first meeting tonight, and our next meeting is scheduled on the 10th of March. So anybody that's wanting to serve on a committee and get some insight on how committees work and have some input on the direction the city's going to take on this, get online and get that application in.
I, Jill, would like to talk a little bit about the city billing for water, sewer, garbage, some of you are on a paperless billing program through the city, and we also know that you received a bill probably from the city or will be receiving one. Just as an FYI, it is just to get the solid waste or this information packet out to you. you are still on paperless billing. You will go back to that, but we wanted to have a way to get you this information. Just don't worry and think you're off of it, but we just wanted to let you know this is what the reasoning was. So thanks.
Thanks, Mary, for that. I think with the way we do our billing, it was easiest and most cost efficient for the city to just do that. Although now we realize it causes a little confusion, so we might think of doing that differently. But thank you, Mary. All right. Any other council member comments tonight?
I'll have some comments here.
Oh, go ahead, Juan.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the same thoughts of Councilmember Holst about the fireworks committee. I think it's very important. We currently have two community members for Ward 1, and it's vitally important that more members sign up, submit the application to the city, so we can get this really important work going. On a different note, I also want to bring a spotlight to the significance of Black History Month. So just a quick spotlight to that. We're 10 days into this month, and I think it's a big recognition to recognize that Black history is also part of the American history. And history is a great teacher. In order to look forward, it's always good to learn from our past. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. All right. Moving on then, under Mayor's report, I didn't prepare any slides. We've been quite busy in the city participating in the Association of Washington City's City Action Days with the legislature. And I know several of our council members are doing that. Yesterday at a board meeting, today was a Zoom conference. The governor addressed the organization at noon. Then there were breakout sessions that talked about different hot topics and legislation going on right now in Olympia. And tomorrow they start at 7 a.m. Not sure why they have to do it that early, but they're going to have some more hours of interaction with legislators down in Olympia. So thank you to the council members for being engaged, and if not, getting those updates and really participating and watching the legislation that affects the city of Mount Vernon. But a reminder for our public, the legislature is online this year. And so if you go to leg.wa.gov, you can look at bills, you can find your legislator later, you can comment. In one of the breakout sessions today, the representatives that were speaking were really excited about the increased amount of public participation, including one committee that had over 1,000 people signed up to make public comment on the topic. They clearly couldn't get to everyone, but what they're excited about is voices are being heard much greater than if they were actually in session. So I think a portion of the remoteness of testimony will hopefully carry forward from this year and just have a lot more voices heard in Olympia. So lots going on. Legislative session runs through April, and so we'll continue to keep an eye on and participate in that. All right, item E tonight is our council committee agenda request. Any requests from City Council? A quick update just for you on some of the ones that are pending. We have our quiet zones with the railroad request, and that will come forward next Wednesday in a briefing. We have, let's see, we're going to do just a quick collective bargaining overview with council. That'll be on the 24th of February, something that I had asked for from our HR department. There was a request to talk about the consent agenda, and so we'll have time on our agenda next week for that. And I think that's, and then in our Public Works Committee on March 10, a request to talk about some of the wastewater treatment plant upcoming permit changes that could happen and kind of where we're at on that. So we're trying to schedule those requests as soon as we can.
Mayor, if I can add, one of the ones we had talked about hearing a bit more about is the speed limits on College Way. So I assume that's in there somewhere.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
I think you had sent a note asking if we were ready to bring forward the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff we've been working on with Skagit Valley College. And so if that can find an agenda at your best, convenience, looking forward to sharing some of that too.
Excellent. I actually had it on for next week, but I wanted to confirm, so I'll consider that confirmed. How about that? Great, thank you. All right, and moving on tonight for our new business. So item A, we have some guests with us tonight, our Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County update, and Peter Donovan was going to make that introduction. Peter?
I will. Thank you, Mayor, and hello, Council. The Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County is dedicated to exclusively offering a diverse range of services supporting businesses and communities within the county, as well as people, businesses, and organizations from around the world interested in investing and building partnerships here. Most recently, Council will recall EDASC's effective assistance to the city in allocating our CARES Act funding to help small businesses in the city of Mount Vernon to deal with the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So tonight, patiently waiting in the virtual digital wings is EDASC's CEO, John Sternlicht, and some of his staff who are here to update council and city residents on what EDASC has been up to recently. So, Mr. Sternlicht, it is good to have you here tonight, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Peter, and Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, thanks for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm just really happy to see all of you and hear what's going on. Tamsin Bell is here in the audience, and as Peter and the Mayor know, certainly she did a whole lot of the heavy lifting on these grant programs. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk just briefly, and I'm going to try to run through this really quickly, briefly about what economic development is and how we view it, and then what has gone on this past year, and then finish up with what our plans are for this year, and also kind of touch on how some of these things specifically affect the city of Mount Vernon. So, just to check, can you see the opening slide? Yes?
Yes,
Good.
we can.
Good. I always have to ask because these things are not, or I'm not a foolproof operator. How about that? We've recently updated our mission statement, and this contains all the things or the primary things that the board thinks are important. So of course, an economic development program is going to be business attraction, retention, expansion, and we also work on developing community capacity to be a stronger, more prosperous, sustainable, healthy, equitable community. And then we all wanted to call out while maintaining Skagit County's natural beauty and quality of life, because we all recognize the importance of that, and that's not the opposite of economic development. They can be done at the same time. So here's kind of part of a laundry list that I'll let you look over. I won't bother reading it to you, of some of the things that make up economic development. And of course, some are more important than others at different times. But the note there indicates that everything we do, we look at through a lens of equity and inclusion, diversity, justice, those principles. So there's not a separate kind of off to the side program for that. It's involved in everything. This year, of course, this past year, there wasn't anything more significant going on than the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. So as soon as that started, we got very involved trying to help our businesses and our residents find resources, find out what they're supposed to be doing with their stores and restaurants and facilities. We helped a lot of applicants for PPP and EIDL loans. We worked on connecting manufacturers with one another and with resources to make PPE and hand sanitizer. And then once the small business grants started becoming available, and that was as early as April, we started with the first $10 million from Governor Inslee's grant fund and spent a lot of time during the balance of the year administering grants. And we have this lovely, very exciting interactive chart that shows you the whole county of where the money went. I'm not sure if it's difficult to read on here, and I can certainly furnish you with a copy of it. But it shows you how these grants went from one end of the county to the other and how much of a difference it made. The summary there, we administered 10 programs, over $2 million awarded, and there were 260 small business and nonprofit recipients of those grants. Of course, we all recognize that that doesn't meet all the need, but it was designed to help bridge the gap and help organizations survive, and we're very proud to have been a part of that. For Mount Vernon specifically, the city of Mount Vernon was very generous and did 2 programs. The first one was for micro enterprises, so that's 5 employees and fewer, and that was done through the Federal Department of Housing and Urban Development, CDBG, Community Development Block Grant. And that was a total of $100,000 awarded to those 15 businesses. And the second one in the fall, 45 small businesses received a total of $270,000, and that was funded through the CARES Act. Then there was a separate CARES Act chunk that came through EDAS, and we used that chunk, or one of those chunks, to fund our local partners, which included all the chambers of commerce, the 6 chambers of commerce in Skagit County, including the Mount Vernon Chamber of Commerce, and also including the Mount Vernon Downtown Association. So to summarize that, the total grant support in Mount Vernon, 161 businesses, about $1.5 million and 842 jobs retained. Now that last figure does not count the most recent grants that came from the state level in December. So that number would actually be higher. We have been involved in consulting with at least 108 businesses in Mount Vernon. And as mentioned, we have close support partnerships with the Downtown Association and the Chamber, but also work closely with other organizations as well. We have helped people connect with procurement through the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. So if a small business or a women or minority-owned business wants to get involved in procurement with some of the larger, particularly government entities, we have a way to help them. Small Business Development Center has helped 88 folks in Mount Vernon, different business folks during 2020. And we connected 7 Mount Vernon businesses with Impact Washington for manufacturing help. We also work with the Center for Inclusive Entrepreneurship and with the Northwest Agricultural Business Center, particularly on things like Latinx business outreach. And I'll get to some of the other things on a later slide. One of the big things we've done is beefed up our communications effort, because as we see here tonight, you know, if we can't get together in person and have events and talk about things in that direct way, or run into each other on the street or at lunch, we have really immediately launched into beefing up our website, putting COVID-19 updates and different business resources on there, the grant and loan programs, everything people needed to know about. We've also been hosting a regular 5-county economic development and chambers meeting with our 2 congressional representatives. And we have produced a couple of videos, one of which was with the Population Health Trust. And that was talking about how important public health is to getting businesses back online and back running, because we're not going to have an economic recovery until we have a public health recovery. And you, of course, saw our map of the grants. Another thing we work on in partnership with the City of Mount Vernon and the Northwest Agricultural Business Center, the Port of Skagit, Skagit Valley College, Washington State University, Northwest Innovation Resource Center, and a whole host of others, as well as a lot of producers. We are promoting value-added agriculture across Skagit County. And there are a lot of these innovation partnership zones across the state. It was a great idea that the state had a number of years ago. Unfortunately, funding has never accompanied that great idea. But nonetheless, we've been very active as sort of a think tank around how can we promote value-added ag across the county. And the biggest thing to happen this past year was, and we just heard about federal approval of this mark yesterday, the day before, an origin mark for products that come principally from the Skagit Valley. And that is a really good way to recognize what's grown here and also to market it to audiences near and far. We also are working always very hard to try to attract new ag-related businesses and grow the ones that are here. A couple of other focus areas are manufacturing and maritime support, mainly for the businesses that are already here, but always trying to recruit new ones. A really interesting project here that has countywide connection is the Fast Foil Ferry, looking to electrify our state ferry system. And you probably know that Skagit County has been looking at electrifying the Guimas Ferry with a replacement ferry for a long time, but this is much more far-reaching. The benefits, in addition to the ferry benefits, are for Skagit County. We would hope to get a lot of manufacturing work out of that. And both ports are heavily involved, as well as the county. And we work hard to bring together manufacturers, particularly those in maritime. And we have a lot of projects in the pipeline for expansion or location in these areas. One of the interesting things about this Fast Foil Ferry is that it combines a lot of the focus areas we have. So clean tech and clean energy, advanced manufacturing, and maritime, all in one deal. Social justice and equity, we have a new education and equity committee headed by President Keegan from Skagit Valley College on our board. And as I said, everything we look at, it's through that lens. But we also are looking at opportunities. One of the main things is rebooting our Latino Business Retention and Expansion Program. The longtime director of that program, Dr. Diana Morelli-Klima, has retired. And so it's a good time for us to look at that and to find out from the community what would be helpful in terms of business support. And one of the things we also learned through this grant-making process is that there are a lot of immigrant business owners, most of whom are Latinx, but not all. And there are other folks with sort of equity-based hurdles to running businesses who may not have the traditional advantages. So what we want to figure out is how can we help those businesses overcome those hurdles. I've also been busy presenting a workshop on unconscious bias and how that comes into play in economic development and business and in other areas. I first did this last fall for the International Economic Development Council's annual conference. I've done it for the Washington Economic Developers Association, for the Port of Skagit, for Impact Washington. I was not intending or expecting necessarily to do this, but I have taken it on the road, I guess, virtually, through word of mouth. And I think it's really important for us all to understand that these unconscious biases can really get in our way. And if we recognize them and figure out ways to think through them and overcome them, we can do so much more. This is also a huge part of Leadership Skagit, which is a program of EDASC in partnership with Skagit Valley College. Obviously, this is an experiential leadership program, and it's been experienced this past year virtually. I know Council Member Hudson has been through it probably most recently of anybody. And they had most of their year last year, the class of 20, in person, and then went virtual in mid-March at a virtual graduation. The class of 2021 is likely to go through the whole season. Virtually, there are 23 members of that class, of whom 12 live and or work in Mount Vernon. And as you probably know, the team projects are very important, and those benefit anyone this year from Helping Hands to Skagit 4-H, Northwest Youth Services, the Bread Lab, and others. And there's a strong focus throughout the program on justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion, with a really neat acronym of JEDI. I mean, we need to get some better graphics in there. We need to get some lightsabers or something for that. I do also want to recognize that one of the team projects from the class of 2020 was to the benefit of Skagit Fisheries Enhancement Group. And that team is being recognized as the Volunteers of the Year for Skagit Fisheries. And one of the members of that team is Tamsin Bell. So we're very proud of them, and that's something that that is an important product of Leadership Skagit. Not only is it, real life experience, but it definitely benefits the nonprofits in our area. So partnerships, economic development is the ultimate team sport, and there are some of the ones we're working with here, and all of those. I will call out one that I haven't mentioned yet, and that's the TPA, the Tourism Promotion Authority. Thanks to the city of Mount Vernon and the other cities and towns in the county and the chambers, this is finally a reality after nobody wants to think about how many years trying, but it's done now. And for the first year, the county is going to sign a contract with EDASC to just facilitate the birthing of this new destination marketing organization that will pull all of Skagit County together and bring more people in when that's a thing again to spend their money here. And there's so much more in addition to the Tulip Festival that keeps us thriving year round, and this is just really important. Just an inside note, EDASC used to be two different organizations with the EDASC Foundation. We combined those last year into one 501c3. So we have smoother operations, but also more grant opportunities that we're always looking for. And just to give you a look at our finances, our revenue sources for 2020 were a little different because we got some contract fee-for-service revenue from all the grant program administrations. So the public investment there for contract work was a little heavier than usual. It's usually a little closer to 50-50, but not this year. And then that's how we spend the money. There is some payroll in administration and in programs, but of course, most of it, like with most nonprofits, your greatest expenditure is your people. And I have to tell you that I have never in my career worked with such an amazing team of dedicated and talented people. It just makes every day so terrific. For 2021, we're looking at the economic recovery strategy, as I mentioned, the Latino business retention expansion, and also how we advise our small businesses. Events, we don't know. We do know that Economic Forecast Night is going to be probably early March virtual, We have a great speaker lined up and we're ready to announce that soon. Learning opportunities in addition to Leadership Skagit, we're going to have a forum in conjunction with the chambers. And we've of course talked to Council Member Brocksmith and to Isaac from the library about an equity, diversity, and inclusion series as well, and how to dovetail what we're all doing together and continuing to strengthen our partnerships. And one thing I will mention is how much we appreciate working with the City of Mount Vernon this past year. We appreciate the opportunity to be involved in the things that you're doing, and it's really truly amazing, a lot of the work that's being done. So thank you very much for that.
All right. Are there
before the train?
Exactly. Are there questions for John about EDASC and what's been going on? I know the city's appreciated what they've been able to do for us as well. So, okay. Well, great. John, thank you so much for joining us this evening and for the update. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, and it's wonderful to see you all. I look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Thank you, John. It was good to see you here.
Thanks, you too. It's wonderful to see you. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on then. Item B also has to do with EDASC. So this is an approval of an agreement. It's the Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County agreement for 2021. And I have Doug Valesky, our finance director, is going to be presenting this item to council. Go ahead, Doug.
All right, thank you, Mayor, and hello, council members. So as the Mayor said, to continue the conversation about EDASC, tonight I'm bringing forward an agreement with the Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County for the year 2021. So as you all know, each year the City of Mount Vernon budgets for and provides funding to EDASC. The city does not have the expertise or resources to adequately promote economic investment, and this nonprofit organization was formed for the express purpose of promoting and attracting new business, expanding existing business, and enhancing trade opportunities for all of Skagit County. The city receives significant benefit from the development and expansion of the local economic base by enhancing employment opportunities for its residents and by creating additional tax revenues. The city has committed $10,000 for financial support to EDASC for this agreement for 2021, which is included in the adopted 2021 city budget. An agreement between our two agencies needs to be approved to confirm the city's funding commitment. So with that, I'm just asking that staff recommends that council authorize the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Economic Development Alliance of Skagit County for the calendar year 2021.
All right, are there any questions about this agreement?
I'd move the adoption of the agreement, the 2021 agreement with the Economic Development of Skagit County.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Juan.
Okay, so we'll have Mark as made a motion and Juan second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposing tonight? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much. And thank you again, John and staff, for joining us. All right, moving on to item C. Item C is the approval of an agreement with Pacific Surveying and Engineering, PSE. I believe Chris Phillips, our Development Services Director, is going to take the next several items. So go ahead on this one, Chris.
Yes, ma'am. The next 9. So to go through with you here, we've worked with Pacific Surveying and Engineering for the past 3 years. This is just an on-call services agreement for Pacific Surveying and Engineering for 2021 in the case that we need to utilize their services, and we've utilized their services in a variety of ways, dealing with the proposed Library Commons sites, site, and then also with Fire Station 1 proposed site, as well as a few other projects in the city. So we are looking for council's approval council's approval of the professional services contract with Pacific Surveying and Engineering.
Great, questions for Chris on this?
No
I'd
questions.
move to, oh, go ahead. Oh, I'd move to approve the professional services contract with Pacific Surveying and Engineering.
I'll second that.
Thank you. So a motion by Gary and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item D tonight is in a professional services contract with Armadillo Design Lab. Chris Phillips.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. Again, this is a company that we've worked with for the last 5 years, and this professional services contract is Armadillo Design. Adair Orr provides a permit or building permit design review for the city. This is something that we, since we don't have that resident expertise within our staff, we have partnered with them for the past 5 years. City staff recommends council approve the professional services contract with Armadillo Design.
Any questions for Chris?
I move to approve, have the mayor approve the, sorry, let me start over. I move to approve the professional services contract with Armadillo Lab.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Mary and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And any opposed tonight? Motion carries. Thank you. Item E tonight is the approval of agreement with 7K Environmental. Chris Phillips.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. One of the things I should have mentioned as well, this was all part of the 2021 budget that was approved by council. This is all wrapped up in our professional services, so we're just calling those out as we're going through. So just in case the public was wondering about that. For 7K, we've been working with 7K Environmental. It's coming up on a decade now. They provide and manage our ecosystem alternative program with the city, and basically enhancing our critical area ordinances and mitigation sites that are located throughout the city. City staff recommends the council approve of the professional services contract with 7K Environmental.
Any questions for Chris on this?
No, I'd move the move approval of the agreement with 7K Environmental.
Second.
Oh, let's see. Motion by Mark, I think a second by Iris, I heard. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Item F is the approval of an agreement with Transportation Solutions Incorporated. Chris.
Hi, thank you, Mayor. We've been working with Victor Salmon, who's is a partner with TSI almost for 15 years now. So they have been integral in completing any of our traffic concurrency for any of our new developments here. They were integral in completing the traffic element of our comprehensive plan review back in 2016. By keeping their services on board incrementally as we've been adding residential as well as commercial activities into the city. When we come to you with the rewrite for the comp plan here in a few years, I believe in 2016 it was the price tag was somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000 for those services. We've been updating that comp plan as we've gone along, so we have an active map with that. So it should be at a much reduced rate when we get to updating that particular element of the comp plan. City staff recommends council approve of the professional services contract with TSI for year 2021.
All right, questions for Chris? I'd entertain a motion to move forward on this.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Mark and a second by Mary. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed tonight? Thank you. Motion carries. Item G is approval of an agreement with LC Lee and Associates. Chris.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We've been working with Dr. Lyndon Lee, who is a world-renowned biologist. He just happens to reside here in Skagit County and really likes working with us and the critical areas that are associated with a variety of fish-bearing streams to include the Skagit River. What we, again, not having a resident biologist services as part of our city staff, we contract out with Dr. Lee and his associates. City staff recommends council approve this professional services contract for 2021 with LC Lee and Associates.
Questions for Chris?
I'd move
for
to
approval.
go ahead. I'll second it.
All right. Motion by
This
Mary
is hard.
and a
Thank you.
second by Gary. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. See how quick this goes? Item H tonight, the approval of an agreement with Olbrechts and Associate PLLC. Chris.
All right, thanks, Mayor. We've been working with, or City has been working with Phil Albrechts for the last 3 years. He provides our hearing examiner services for us. He's done an excellent job, here and in another municipality where I happened to work at before here for 3 years, and has done a terrific job for us. City staff recommends council approve the professional services contract for Albrecht and Associates to perform or to provide hearing examiner services.
Questions for Chris?
I'll make a motion. Second Gary's motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. A motion by Gary, a second by Melissa. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. All right. Item I tonight is a professional services agreement with Christian Carlson. Chris?
Hi, thanks, Mayor. We've used Christian Carlson again for about the last 3.5 to 4 years with the city. Again, the services that he provides is in regards to the downtown design review and plan unit developments that we have with outside that historic zone, but also internal to that historic zone. He has just again been an integral part of our help with providing that information to developers as they are providing permit and plan review. City staff recommends council approve the professional services contract with Christian Carlson.
Questions for Chris?
Okay, I'll go. I'd like to move that we approve the professional services contract with Christian Carlson.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mary and a second by Melissa. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed tonight? All right. Motion carries. Thank you. Item J is the approval of an agreement with Urban Forestry, Jim Barbarinas. Chris?
Hi, thanks, Mayor. The only two council members who haven't really got this. This is for Councilmember Morales or Brockman, so maybe we get you on these two. So the last two here, or this last one is dealing with Mr. Barbarinas. Again, we do not have arborist services as part of our city staff. We contract out for those. But we've been working with Jim and his company for the last 8 years here with the city. They've provided outstanding insights for us, again, as far as forestry services go in the critical areas, or if you recall, back near where Councilmember Holst lives, when a resident happened to take down some trees and we were unsure of what to do, we contract out with Jim. He's Johnny on the spot with his crew, went out there, helped us out and assisted us, and then is also helping us with the replanting efforts that are associated with it when the weather is conducive for doing that here in a few months. City staff recommends council approve the professional services contract with Urban Forestry and Services, Bartlett Consulting for year 2021.
All right. Questions for Chris?
I got a quick question. In that contract, it says all your lodging expenses. Jim's local, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is just a standard
contract there. Yeah. The only thing that we get
gotcha.
charged with, and I'm the money person here, when those invoices come in, is just talking where is he going, because it's usually the mileage that comes into play with those services. How much are they actually out on site? There's an hourly rate that goes with that, but then they're also able to get the transportation costs or the mileage that's associated with that.
Okay, thanks. Well, I move to do a professional services contract with Urban Forestry Services.
Second.
Motion by Gary and a second by Mark. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Right, motion carries. Thank you. Item K tonight is the approval of an agreement with the watershed company. Go ahead,
Hi,
Chris.
thanks, Mayor. This is the last one. Here, the Watershed Council, this is Watershed Company. These are the folks that will be assisting us as it relates to our update with the Shoreline Master Program. We discussed this briefly with you a few weeks ago when we were looking at the 2021 work plan. This is something that needs to be completed or will be completed in calendar year 2021. We also have a state grant that is assisting us with this that we need to be utilizing those particular services or funding through or before on or before June of 2021. So all systems are go as it relates to performing those tasks. City staff recommends council approve the professional services contract with the Watershed Company.
Questions for Chris on this?
I'll move that council approve the professional service agreement with the Watershed Company.
Second.
Motion by Mark and a second by Iris. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed tonight? All right, thank you. Thank you, Chris. All right, item L tonight is a project acceptance for the 2020 sanitary and storm sewer lining project. And Bill Bullock, our city engineer, is here to present. Bill.
Good evening, King Council. Our next two items are project acceptance items. This one is for our annual sewer lining program. This is the work we completed last year, and we are simply asking that we approve this work. The contract was completed within 1% of the original contract price. So we're very pleased with the work Michaels did for us.
Any questions for Bill on this? Okay.
If there are any questions, I move for council to authorize the mayor to accept the work completed by Michaels Corporation on the 2020 sanitary and storm sewer lining project.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Juan and a second by Iris. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Item M is the project acceptance for the 2020 street improvement project. And Bill.
Thank you again. So this is Lakeside Construction completed our paving program for last year. If you recall, we did delete the Little Mountain Road section. We had a goal of keeping the project costs under $700,000 in order to maintain our budget we were left with COVID. And so we were able to do that. We completed the work for $677,000. And so again, we're looking for the project acceptance so we can close out the project.
All right, any questions for Bill?
I'll make a motion that council authorize the mayor to accept the work completed by Lakeside Industries.
Second.
Motion by Melissa and a second by Gary. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Item N tonight is for the good of the order for our COVID-19 pandemic response and discussion. I don't have a very much to share, although I did forward a press release to council earlier today from Skagit County. It looks like they're setting a date to discontinue testing at the fairground site. However, they're maintaining it for vaccinations. And so just really reminding folks for the up-to-date information on the county health services, please check out skagitcounty.net. Please sign up for their newsletter. You'll get their newsletter and their releases, so you have the information that comes right to your e-box. Because I know they do things in the paper, but not everyone gets that. So if you want to be proactive, make sure you get that information. I know that there has been significant delays in vaccines that are coming to the county, the actual vaccine. And so that's been really disappointing to all of us. In our presentation by Governor Inslee today at AWC, he talked a little bit about what they're trying to do to make sure we can get that distribution. Of course, comes all the way from the federal government. So again, just asking folks to be patient. I really believe things will start being produced and being delivered out there shortly. but just want to make sure that they've got everything in place, ready to put those injections in arms as soon as we receive the vaccine. Again, skagitcounty.net. Let's see. I don't want to put Chief Price on the spot, so I might give him a minute to maybe turn on his camera, but we have had a couple emails that I've heard about folks seeing news stories about fire folks in the King County area going mobile and administering vaccines. So Chief, if you don't mind, just maybe sharing some information about people asking if Mount Vernon Fire can do that kind of thing. So go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, so two things. One, I'll tag on to the mayor's last part there. One of the pieces I don't think I forwarded on to her and she might not have seen is there was some more direction that came back through the state about utilizing the region and using what are called type 1 and type 2 incident management teams. And it looks to me like they're going to activate more of the Stafford Act, which is a federal act which covers a lot of the FEMA resources. So it looks like that's how they're wanting to push some of this vaccination. And the idea behind these incident management teams that normally handle large-scale incidents, wildfires, earthquakes, and those sorts, would be to help support the large-scale vaccination process. Again, to get the numbers that they want to get by July, they're going to need to use more resources of that. So more to come on that as we get that information. What that could mean is there might be some other vaccination sites that get set up for our North region, is how they've reorganized it. We're part with Whatcom County, Skagit County, Island, and San Juan is what they consider the North region up here. So more on that as it comes. What the mayor is referring to is, you know, there are some folks that fall into this category we're in right now as the 1B category. Basically the elderly over the age of 70 years old. And some of these folks, unfortunately, aren't able to get to the vaccination site. So there are some places that have been able to leverage fire department personnel to kind of basically make a home healthcare visit to deliver that vaccine to them in their homes if they're not able to get out. And really what this is a larger part of is where I can see, you know, the fire department and the city being able to grow its services with what's called integrated mobile healthcare. This is just one avenue of that, where if we can partner with county health, if there's enough vaccine, there are some requirements with this vaccine that make it a little more challenging. But that's a service that where we could look to be able to deliver that into the home for those that can't get out. The larger scale program is everything from post-discharge visits to, you know, somebody that's diagnosed possibly with COVID, making sure they're doing okay so that they don't have to have a hospital visit. We haven't been asked to do that. I've reached out to county health and letting them know that that is something that we could definitely look into doing and helping. Again, it comes with the caveat that one, we have to have vaccine. Two, there's just a lot of requirements for how it has to be stored, and then who can handle it, and all those other pieces that would still need to be worked out. I don't know if that covers the essence of what you were referring to there, Mayor, but we have had just a couple emails that have come in directly to the fire department from citizens asking about that.
Thanks, Chief. I don't know if council had seen some of the stories. I think it was Cairo or some of the news stations had run a story about it. So, okay. All right. Any questions for council, for Chief, who is more in the know on some of the stuff than I am with public health, the interface? All right. Great. Well, thank you. We have completed our scheduled agenda items. Kevin, is there a need for an executive session tonight?
No, Mayor.
All right. So with that, we will be adjourned at 7:31. Good night, everyone.
Yep. Good night.